Lavalcha. Welcome to Irish Granny Tarot. This is episode number 2, part 2 of the Search for Hidden Sacred Knowledge by Dolores Cannon. We'll just move forward. If you haven't seen video number 1, you'll want to. It's the first 5 chapters of the book. We're starting chapter 6, Manna from Heaven. So a woman named Nicole came to Dolores. She was a nurse and she wanted to know her purpose in life. So in a trance, she found herself with calm water all around her and she was floating on top. And she tells Dolores, "I'm just a thought. I don't have to do anything. I just have to be." So Dolores thought, okay, well, this is singularly uneventful. So she moved her forward in time to where there was some action. And Nicole says, "I'm a young man with rough clothing, loose leather shoes, and I'm hunting amongst the trees here. I have a bag with fruit and rocks." She was trained by the guy was trained by an elder. She's carrying rocks for protection. And his goal in this travel is to find a student to teach, to take over for him. And he's got crystals as well to pass along. So the rocks are used to hunt. They don't carry weapons. He doesn't carry weapons. He lives alone. His family lives with others in the village. He left his family to learn, and the energy of other people interferes with him. He prefers living outdoors. He eats stuff from the forest and white stuff that just appears when he needs it. I guess that's the manna. Others in the village have to grow their food and work for it or kill animals. He doesn't. He just subsists off of the forest and this white food. He always was able to, and his mother never liked that. It made her very uncomfortable. He's now, he met a man. Now, before he made this journey, he met a man who taught him, and it turns out this was his father. I guess they didn't live together, his parents. He looked different from the people of the village. He had blonde hair and light skin, so I'm getting little hints here of an ET, involvement with a human. The villagers were afraid of his father. He had all sorts of information that they didn't have. How to heal anything, about the future of people, and they would forget all of it, but what would this mean? His dad came from a star. He was on a mission. He came to help people. He came on a thought. He made his body with thought, which is a very hermetic principle. People have kind of watered it down into do a wish board, whatever that's called, and it'll, whatever you're wanting, it'll happen. And it doesn't quite work that way, but thoughts can manifest in the material world with the proper intention and action. So he says he thought me into my mom to replace himself, his father, when he was gone. So his father thought the son's existence into the human mother, so the son could replace the father when the father returned to his planet or wherever, his dimension. So he had to leave early. The son said, "I could have learned more. I will think a son, I'll have a son when the time is right. I'll think a son when the time is right and pass on all I do know." So she moves him forward, and he was hurt in the leg a few days before he died. A tree fell on his leg and trapped him, and he didn't have his healing things with him. He'd been with a student and his son, who was very young. A woman, the mother of his son, understood and let him take the son to teach the son in preparation. After his death, he saw that he'd learned nothing to be afraid of, to travel and to learn. He then learned that it was okay to stay in one place as well. It just depends on what your path is. So as we progress, we lose the need for things to aid our abilities. Thought is all we need. So at first we have to work really hard at reviving our innate abilities, but over time with practice, it is no longer hard. Rituals are baby steps, and they're the things you do until you don't need them anymore. And thought infuses, and the ability happens. The more open the mind, the better. Trust your instincts and your intuition. These are all messages coming to Dolores Cannon through this session from this individual in the past. Trust your instincts and your intuition. There are many people on TV who lie and say they can heal, faith healers. That's baloney. They can't. Others can, but not the ones that are making money on TV. The ones who want you to send in Peter Popoff, you know. If you've ever seen him, I highly recommend his whole shtick. He has little containers of water that you can send him a bunch of money for, and he'll mail you these magical containers of water. Great stuff. So, fear has to leave people, and when it does, there'll be a wave of knowledge. The environmental pollution will make everyone sick from the ground, and the food grown in the ground, and the water exposed to it. And many warnings through all of her books. This is nothing new. This is unpleasant to hear, but this is nothing new. This is in all of her books from many sessions from a variety of people across the years. There have been many warnings, and nobody who is in a position to do anything is listening, and it will require huge positive energy to heal. And in 10 years, she's told, so this would be by 2015, the effects will be known. They were warned. Affects everyone. It's in the water. No one is safe. If we show that we want to do the right thing, others will help us. We have the free will. Others meaning, and if we don't show that we want to do the right thing, they won't help us. Free will. Chapter 7, just wearing a coat. Next comes Pamela, who was talking about, she reported her dishonest boss at an environmental company job, and she was fired. And her question was, should she leave the corporate world? In a trance, she finds herself on a hill looking down on a small town. She's an old man with a long gray beard, simple clothes, a shepherd's staff, but she's not a shepherd. She's a wise man, a healer. She lived in a hut near the woods at the edge of town. She concocted herbal treatments. It was instinctive, and she also healed with touch. She was viewed, or he was viewed with suspicion and fear, and isolated because others thought that this guy wasn't normal. People fear what they don't understand. They don't trust the unknown. They don't trust the unfamiliar. Cannon says, well, we've come a long way, you know. At least we don't kill people for their beliefs. And I thought that that was an incredible thing to say. That very well might have been true when she had that session with that person. Might have been true somewhere, but look where we are now. In the margin I wrote, ha, 2014. So anyway, this old man learned from forest animals and sometimes just talks to heal. He sometimes gives herbs to heal and to remind them to heal. He doesn't need anything, but it's like a symbol that they can latch onto. He can do it, people can do it by themselves, just by their minds, but we don't know this. We're too afraid. And I think we don't know how. It's a skill, you know. So people come to burn his hut and tell him only God must heal. He says, I'm different. I'm from elsewhere, from the stars. I'm not from their group. I look different. They'll burn the hut and they'll think he's dead, but he's not. He just leaves. I mean, his spirit, he just doesn't, he doesn't die. He's eternal character. He came to help and he thought they'd learn, and many have come to help, many like him. They came alone. They were in a ship and they adapted their body to be on Earth, and both in energy level and in visuals for humans. And their real body is so different it might scare people. she's told. They bring knowledge, they bring technology. Some humans are not as fearful because many humans are aware of him but simply think he's a god. People feared losing power to him. You know, the priests and the healers and everything. They thought he was usurping their position. He was a threat. One guy learned from him and then wanted to be dominant and led the villagers against him. His body burned, but he was out of the body watching from a distance. And we hear this from people who have near-death experiences. They're in terrible car crashes, like parachute accidents, things like that. But they survive, and they report that they didn't experience the trauma, the physical trauma at all, because their soul left their body before the bad stuff happened. There was a moment of fear. They were out of their body, and they observed what happened to them. And that should be very reassuring, I think, to all of us. So he watched his body, and he goes back to choose another body on the ship. He says your body is like a shell. You can change the shell with your mind to fit in to where you're going. I wish it was as easy as that. This time he says he's going to be more careful to look similar and fit in. So these guys aren't foreign. They don't lead a whole full life. They sort of step into a body that they manifest. They assume a shell, he says, to do the work. It's not reincarnation, and it's not a plan to evolve the soul. It's a task that they've come to do, a mission. In his life now, the person in the trance, he does this many times and is not aware of it, which begs the question, you know, what have I been up to? It's very disconcerting to think about. So the information that he gets involves going from body to body to body to fulfill his mission of teaching and healing. It's like putting on a human coat. He may do this many times until he chooses to go to the next incarnation, because he's a soul and it will incarnate. His progress is slow, but he does make progress. And now he is reincarnated as Pamela, who's at the session, and he hoped to tie up all the loose ends of his past lives, you know, get that karma all balanced out. He says it's better to have problems in life, or else how would you learn? And without the dark, there's no recognizing the light. Without growth, without challenges, there's no growth. And I think that's a perspective we should keep when we discuss current events. Without that dark, we won't recognize the light. It provides a contrast. Don't do that. Don't be like that. Don't advocate for that and try to change that. That's the purpose. The purpose of other people suffering. They're learning their own thing. But the purpose of the observer, there is a purpose for us to witness. So he didn't enter as a human. He doesn't understand the fear that humans have or the joy. And he says in his next life, his job will be to learn emotions. He says it's important to learn to overcome fear. This is an example of a shapeshifter. It's not negative. These are entities that come to help. Many are in the health and teaching professions. They're forbidden to go into government. I thought that was hilarious because they're not allowed to interfere. They have too much knowledge and they would be advocating too much. It's up to us to figure that out. But they can help heal and they can help teach. Many of us interact with them and have no clue that that's what's going on. Pamela is told that she had a difficult childhood. She had to learn many lessons to clear up all her leftover karma. Childhood is very important to the development of the soul. For example, if I can't read my handwriting. Oh my God. Something about the broken part of the soul is harder to develop. So you have to go through whatever difficulties that you go through as a child makes it easier to develop in the long run. It's difficult to go through it, but it's better for development. And the opposite is true. If you have just this plum childhood, well, you're not being challenged and you're not doing the kind of growth that you could do. Cannon asked why some people that she tries to help to heal themselves in the trance don't heal. And she's told that because that illness has a purpose, it serves them. They must change their beliefs about healing first. And she said, you, Cannon, aren't the healer. They, the sick subject, is the healer. They are the healers of themselves. Chapter 8, The Emergency. Shawnee is from Africa and came to Dolores about relationship problems. She had a previous life as a shapeshifter on another planet, and she came to help the hopeless and the desperate. She came from a beautiful, happy place with a lot of positive energy. She came on assignment, and her job was to go all over. She says, we are the emergency crew. We are energy. We live in space. We have very high energy, and we help all over. There is a station that directs us where to go to help. It's an important job because there are big changes going on right now. And they're going on all over the universe, not just, in Washington, D.C. And these huge changes are to cause our evolution to a next level on all planets, everywhere. She says energy is in certain crystals. It's used to do helping and healing, that each color of a crystal has a different purpose. Yellow crystals help to grow plants and trees. Red are for healing. Blue is for knowledge. White helps to build. Purple is the most powerful. Oh, my favorite color. It's the most powerful, and it's to raise the level of spirituality or to evolve things at a higher speed. Green is for traveling. It's for the power to travel, the power of speech to communicate. They're assigned a certain color crystal, and it depends on the vibratory level and interest of the helper. They don't stay as humans long because they have to lower their vibrations when they're on the earth, and it loses power for them, and it's hard for them to maintain that. They just, they want to take off. Sometimes they are doing it for a specific person. She was reincarnated in Africa to help deal just by the presence of her energy, the unrest, whatever this time period was. But as a human, of course, she doesn't remember that that's why she was born there. She then came to Washington, D.C. to help with that energy. Good luck to her. She says the government in D.C. has made decisions that really could destroy the world. And at this, in the book, Cannon is utterly shocked. She interrupts the narrative and says, I was just shocked to hear this. That this young woman sends energy to the Capitol, to the White House, etc., but doesn't realize she's doing it. It's her mission, but it's a subconscious thing. We've all got this life going on inside of us that's dealing on a completely different plane, about which we're unaware, most of us. Some people, they're advanced, but the majority of us have no idea. We have little hints and dreams and sleep, but... So all of this is subconscious, and we need to do this work really quickly, she says, because many bad things are being done. She's told that Obama was chosen because he is a light bringer, and that Bush was not a light bringer. He was negative. He had bad energy. He believes in war and destroying life. So I don't think I've said anything yet that comes as any surprise to anybody. These are the words of Dolores Cannon from this young woman in trance, not my words. Obama had a purpose. His presence was to put out energy to help raise consciousness. And I think that was obvious. She makes the observation that there are too many bad people in the government. So these light workers, they change the energy of the environment to increase the general vibratory level of everybody. They put energy out there, but it's up to people's free will to decide what is going to happen with that energy. Many are in bodies. Many are also here only in spirit to help elevate our energy. In this incarnation, Shawnee doesn't know this. She doesn't know what's going on. We're oblivious to what our real purpose is. She won't accumulate karma in this lifetime because she's here on this mission. She'll move on. Her house and job were specifically chosen for the location in relationship to energy and for her to be able to send out energy. Cannon told her that her energy is going to travel to give and get information. Shawnee needs a man in her life who is powerful enough in energy like her and who won't interfere with her work, which is why she was having trouble finding a relationship. She's told the power of the mind to create and heal is great, even more powerful when a group gets together to do it. Chapter 9, Another Traveler. Peter is a lawyer, and he asks Dolores, Cannon, I want to find out, should I change jobs? In a trance, he finds himself floating over a beautiful countryside, just observing. He realizes he was keeping watch over a group of people down below. He's the leader, and he's keeping them safe. He's in male human form, but he can fly, and he can change forms. He can travel through space to different planets, and he can make himself invisible. The people below are like an indigenous tribe. They're nomadic, and he's kind of their guardian. Sometimes he came down as a physical body with a spear so they would know him and they would follow him, but he doesn't stay with them. He can go in and out of the physical. He can go to other planets. He's a very advanced use of light energy. He's like a ball of energy in reality. The people are balls of light. They're all energy workers, and they came here to renew the energy on the planet. He entered, Peter, the lawyer, who's here about a job, he entered Peter's body at the age of 9 years old. His energy was too much for Peter's body, his physical earthly body, to handle until he achieved the age of 9. So the plan was always he was going to use Peter's body as soon as his body could handle the energy. This is not an unusual story. Cannon says she's had many clients who don't remember their childhood before they were 8 or 9. You talk to people, I'm always really surprised at how little a lot of people remember about their early childhood. I was under the impression that everybody remembered a lot, and it's not true. Some people really, they cannot remember anything about their childhood. Well, this would be an explanation. So Peter this is his first time as a human, his spirit, and in a human body, and he needs help with the transition, so he's having problems with being in the physical state. He's needed because many souls are trapped here in the wheel of karma. They need new, pure souls who have no karmic imbalance. So Peter needs to do work as a teacher and a healer. Energy work that has to do with the back of his spine. I believe they're talking about chakras. So he's right. He needs to, whatever he's doing as a lawyer is not meeting his needs as his purpose. Peter, he has to take a class to unblock his energy to heal others. He needs to tap into his third eye. Chapter 10, Color and Sound. Erica is a kinesiologist. That's somebody who studies body movement. And in a trance, she sees darkness with volcanic ash. And the air is hot and the ground is burned. She's a young man in rags, skinny, starving, looking at the destruction of farmland and a farmhouse. Sheep and dogs are with him. The ground shook and the sheep ran off and the dog went after them and he ran after them and ended up running into a stream because there was burning lava, which was the cause of the shaking. He found the dog and a third of the sheep across the valley near a lake. So he was outcast because he had a cleft lip. But an old woman helped him to get the shepherding job, and he was just as happy to be alone. This sort of saved him because he was in that place. He finds an untouched valley and a welcoming village, and heals his burn wounds, and he heals the sheep, and they move forward. He's now a light being on a mountain, and he's being taught by a spirit about light and how to use the full spectrum of light. He's learning to be different colors of rays of light for different uses. He can change consciousness around him by just walking around them and his color energy. Important to remember that light colors are just different vibrations of light, and it's just energy and packages of energy. And the faster they move or the slower they move, the color changes. So it's not terribly mysterious. We know this. Light's very powerful. He says it opens hearts. A closed heart must be exposed to light, and at that point, then it's up to the person. We have free will to open our heart or not. Light and sound are the same thing, different vibrations, different frequencies. Every color has sound. Every sound has color. And there are people who experience color as music or experience sound. They'll hear music and they'll see colors. I just have always thought that was fascinating. This is the explanation for that. They're just more sensitive and reading the vibrations. It's all just vibrations, he's told. People receive it from him, and if they're open to it and they're unaware that he's doing this, they don't know it, but he's there doing it, and if they're open to it, they get the benefit. Erica, the subject in the session, is not this, and she doesn't have this energy, and Canon's talking to Erica. Erica's an old friend of the entity who just talked through her. And she's told, Canon is told through Erica to remind Erica that she is light and sound. Erica doesn't remember any of this. This is so funny. So a good pal of hers, who's a more advanced being, has reached out to Dolores Cannon. Would you tell her and let her know? So wherever we are, we're home because our body is a vehicle. The earth is our home. Chapter 11, Protecting the Knowledge. The subject's name is Andrew. He felt he didn't belong. He worked as a healer. He taught science and he taught metaphysical things, and also he was an artist. In trance, he says he feels chains on his feet and legs, and he's confused. And he realizes actually what he's feeling is armor, chainmail. He is a young man. He's in pain because he's betrayed. Someone has revealed where we were, he says, and we're going to be tortured and killed. We were protecting knowledge, and those who told on us feared us because they would be killed if they didn't tell. He's in a castle, and he's somebody of very high rank. They were envious of the power of our knowledge, he says, from ancient times. They were protecting this knowledge. We're sacrificing ourselves as so that the knowledge will stay safe. He says, I'm afraid. I will say I know the knowledge, and I am the keeper to keep the real people with the knowledge safe and to confuse the bad guys. I am Spartacus. That kind of a situation where they all claim to be Spartacus to protect Spartacus. If you haven't seen that movie, you should see it. So he's saying, I have the knowledge. So they kill him. They don't look any farther. And the real person with the knowledge is safe. They're protecting books and people because not all of the knowledge is written. Some of it's in books and some of it isn't. The knowledge won't be lost or destroyed. It's very ancient and very powerful. They think it's witchcraft, these, bad guys. But they want the power associated with it. they're in the government. There's a shock. They're in the government of his time. The government is the church. He's scared, but it's his duty. And moving forward, he and all he knows and loves are tortured, killed, burned. The lesson of this lifetime for him was a test of his courage. So he's moving to a different life where he's a woman in her 20s, beautiful, and in a beautiful building. There are crystals of all sizes everywhere, and she can control their energy and activate them to heal people. People come one by one, like a doctor's visit. Only a few people have this kind of power that she has, but she is in vain. She uses the power and looks. Oh, but she is vain. She uses her power for the wrong reasons. She uses her looks and her power to attract men. And it's wrong because it influences free will, because she's got this power that they don't have. So her energy is intentionally blocked, and she has to leave and no longer do the energy work because she can't interfere with people's free will. She must live an ordinary life. She'll just be a regular teacher and eventually meet a man, a history teacher. They'll have a daughter, and the daughter is taken from her to train because it's discovered that this daughter has power, ability. On her last day, she's hundreds of years old and has a peaceful death. And lesson here is you should not use your power to control, but ego gets in the way. So now we're on chapter 12, Orbs of Information. And our subject's name is Betty. She's an energy worker and a teacher. She, in trance, sees a roll of green carpet on the desert sand, and it leads to a small pyramid with an awning over the entrance. She is a dark-skinned man in a gauzy white outfit and elaborate gold sandals. He's busy organizing the arrival of a dignitary. The small pyramid is a special ceremonial place. It's a house of knowledge. So he's getting it ready for someone who's coming from afar. He sees servants with food and drink. Two people, a brother and a sister, arrive. They're very tall and very narrow, and they're worshipped. So I think we can extrapolate who they may be. They have small heads. They're very exotic looking. They don't walk. They sort of float. They have close cropped hair and olive skin, and they arrive by teleportation. They have a pet lion. So, these are not ordinary folks. They're worshipped. Their vases are made, the woman has vases made shaped like her. And the question that's going through the session is, this got something to do with Isis? There's a ritual that involves food and drink. Written knowledge is carved onto walls, but it's codified. It's a prophecy and an announcement, and I wanted to read it, I guess. Get my glasses here. It's codified. This woman is the only one who knows how to read it. That's what's interesting. I don't know why. Now, this is the subject speaking in trance. I don't know why I'm getting to see this, but the strip is about 4 or 5 inches wide, and it comes out like a shelf, and this huge book is lying on the shelf. The book is about 3 feet tall with cream-colored pages. It's about 3 feet wide with both pages open. So this woman, who's this, E.T. character, is tall and narrow, so she doesn't need to take the book off the shelf. She stands and turns the pages, but the 2 pages are so huge. When something's in a certain order, they know what will happen that year. I get to view this, but I don't know how or what is in there. I don't know how it works or how it comes about. but this ET does. Highly educated, bred for this, studied, she knows how to do it, she understands it. She's a real symbol for whatever, if this is a religion or a culture or a way of knowledge. So she's looking at pronouncements for the year, how the year will be, or the prophecy. She's the only one who can do it that the person in trance has seen. I think it's going to be read in front of many officials, and then it goes out to the people. It also has something to do with sun worship, because there's Isis in there, and she has a wooden type of long pen. This is very, very formal. Part of the page is like soft copper or bronze. She has to formally make her mark and notation. So she reads it, and then it goes back into the wall of the pyramid. It's like soft copper, and it goes back into the wall of the pyramid. There's something else this woman does that's very interesting while she has the book out. From some place on her body or a pouch or something, she takes a specific jewel. It's oblong, and it's what we call emerald cut. And when the book is out, she places the jewel in a codified place, and it activates something. There's a little slot for it on the right side. And they speculate what's going on. They don't really know. They're just speculating, and it's, you know, a back and forth conversation. So this is the... Oh, wait, did I read the whole thing? Yeah, I read the whole thing. So it's apparent to the person in trance that this, as the old man in gauze preparing for these dignitaries, that these two dignitary brothers and sisters, the sister is the one who's doing all this stuff with the emerald cut in the book and the predictions. The old man thinks that she does it all with great mental power. They go off in a UFO, and he thinks that he has no tongue. And that's why he has this job, because he's illiterate and he has no tongue, and therefore he can't communicate, and he keeps secrets. He usually works in a library in the city. It's a store of knowledge, and he makes sure that the information is coded properly. So apparently he can code things, but he can't communicate in any way. He says it's busy, time-consuming, solitary, kind of like a monk. So he's moved forward by Canon. She moves him forward into another life, and now she's a young girl with others on a platform on top of a pyramid. It seems like a ritual with a priest like a Mayan. The ritual involves an orb. There are glass orbs that come from the sky. They do many things. They carry messages, and the messages are etched on the glass, and they're read by an expert who has a reddish light, and words and formulas and information on mining and business and science stuff and calculations are all read. The balls come, these orbs come from his agents in the mines in the mountains. So these ETs send messages on orbs that come from the mountains and come down to this pyramid. Betty, the trance person, came from codified star family, she says, with specific jobs. She's a trained messenger. She's very high up. She's from a special bloodline. She's not conscious of this in her daily life here in this incarnation, but she's still getting information, and she is unaware that she sends messages back. Researchers have found that there are many odd stone orbs in Costa Rica. There's no explanation for how they were made, because they're perfect round orbs. And rumor is they came from Atlantis. Nobody knows. But they're beyond the abilities of the culture to which they're dated. Chapter 13, Crystal Skulls. Oh, we love crystal skulls. Cannon was doing a class in Virginia, and she got a volunteer to go under. She'll be teaching her method, and one of the students of the method will volunteer to be put under. So this is a woman named Deb, and in trance, she finds herself somewhere at sundown in South America, maybe, in a cave or a tunnel or some kind of passageway, not totally clear. She's wearing, oh, there is sheer cloth over the entrance to a metal door, and she has a key on a rope around her neck. And she knows that only a few are allowed keys. It's a privilege. It's a big, heavy door, big, ornate key. It's a secret place inside, a room of treasures, special and sacred. Lots of ancient writings on parchments and scrolls. There's a human-sized crystal skull on a pedestal on a table from ancient times, from a city that was destroyed by earth changes, volcanoes. It went underwater, part of the land where this skull was, and most of it sank, most of the land, and some things in the room were from that. Some were even more ancient, before that cataclysm. And only a few people are trusted to preserve this stuff. The skull was used for communication, for storing information and storing history. Information is in the crystalline shape, and it's stored as energy. She can place her hands on it and connect with her mind and can put information into the skull. She can get information out of it telepathically. Deb was a woman, some age in her 30s, and trained since a child. She's in a tunnel in a mountain. It's a lush green area like a jungle with temples, and they are flat-topped pyramids, and they're used as landing platforms for ships from other galaxies. The skull is one of many that were gifts from these entities. They came to trade knowledge and information for goods and fruit. The ETs looked similar to humans. They had different skin tones. Some were even blue. In The Keepers of the Garden, canon reminds us, they started with many skin tones. People did, if you remember that story. Purple, blue, and such. But eventually, through time, the genetic tendency got diminished and diminished and diminished. And the one vestige we have left of that is port wine stains. According to them. I don't know. I'm not doing any medical information here. I'm just telling you what the book says. Some people went with ETs, and this woman had, and it was interesting. They would read souls. They know about your incarnations. Their homes are in space, made of crystal. They operate on thought a lot. They're very advanced, beautiful. Her people would go there for rest and vacation. The ETs are now more secretive and only come to isolated areas because there are people who would mistreat them and leaders who would misuse the knowledge. She's moved forward in her session to an important day, and ET royalty arrive with an entourage and one crystal skull that has male or female energy. And they want to put a new one with the one that's in the tunnel. They'll put them together and they'll share information back and forth between the crystal skulls. So she's moved farther forward in time, and she's a teacher, a keeper, passing on knowledge to not have it lost. And one student is her daughter. Then she goes to the day of her death, and she says it's like transitioning to a sleep state, very easy. But she's told that the preservation of knowledge is very important. These were the forerunners of the Mayans. They built the temples before the Mayans. They were built by Atlanteans and Lemurians, and then they were rebuilt. There were not human sacrifices in this time and place. This was a later culture after the ships from the skies stopped. Sacrifice is a power play and a form of war. Captives are killed, and it's bad. There was prophecy for the future in the skulls. There are still skulls in tunnels today, and there are keepers of information today. And this won't be revealed until the time is right. Some skulls we've discovered are genuine, and some are replicas. Some work and some don't. And that book I had, did I take it downstairs? I think I did. Forbidden History by Michael Cremo talks about crystal skulls that were found in South America. Dolphins. Now this is so interesting. She's told that dolphins are not really totally from Earth. They're smart like us, but they never devolved. They never forgot their connection to the Creator and to each other. Many are guardians of skulls under the ocean. The information on crystal skulls comes from yet another client that Canon has. There are 3 sources for crystal skulls, 3 different planets, all crystalline, and so is the Earth internally. So is the human body, which they've recently figured out that there's crystal structure in the DNA that's coded mathematically. And this can be seen in certain caverns all over the globe. It's about energy storage and information storage. Today's tech just now is catching up with this whole concept. Much more crystal than people realize on the Earth. And the number 3 is an important mystical number. The Trinity and the number 3. It's very important. And she said that this contradicts stuff that was made here by ancient civilizations. Things were not really a gift, that knowledge was channeled through them. So the creators thought that they were doing this, but it was coming through them. The hands of ancient ones molded them into the shape of human skulls. That's how they made these crystal skulls, with the source moving through them. They didn't use tools. So this ancient knowledge is said to come from Atlantis. It's done with source energy, and there's a trinity involved in this: source, the ancient beings, and the crystals, and it creates energy. Everything is alive. Crystals are alive too, as old as 100,000 years ago. Some of these skulls and crystals have not been found, and some may be found. Some are more recent when we're talking about these skulls. They come from the Mayan period. They're 20,000 years old. Experts say that they come from around 3000 BC, but there's debate. There's no agreement. And this is what Canon has been told is the story. But then they make a point for her, which I think is so interesting. Time has no meaning. So there are still practicing Mayans around, and the knowledge and how to use it is in these skulls, and will only be given to those who will use it for the greatest good. We have yet to discover true ancient Atlantean skulls. The Mayans are descendants of Lemuria. These things are shaped like skulls, but what are they really? They're biological computers. Their crystal holds information, and it creates associations for people we're not even aware of. The brain stores knowledge like a computer disk, and therefore the crystal is shaped like a skull. It's very powerful to humans on a subconscious level. They're clear quartz. They can store knowledge of all the universes in their crystalline structure. The skull being associated with death was on purpose to keep those not prepared away, to avoid them. One has a movable jaw, which is the strongest bone in the body with the biggest job to do. Not all skulls have knowledge. Crystal skulls have knowledge. Each is made for a specific purpose. It depends on the person who's interacting with it, what information comes from it. Some are made by groups, and some whole skeletons are made to show that all structure is a hologram. The bone is a crystalline structure. In structure, in substance, if you cut a bone, it's a crystalline construction. The subject, Colette, is told, this is the name of the woman in session, that she originated from a humanoid tribe made of crystal structure, not carbon. They were knowledge. So this was because of the time. Everything was crystalline then. All knowledge is in DNA. DNA is even in cremated ash. We just don't know it yet. I thought that was really interesting. Crime Stoppers is going to like to know that. 1924 in Belize, Mitchell Hedges' skull was found, and experts agreed it could only have been created by very sophisticated techniques they can't figure out how. Hewlett-Packard Laboratories studied this skull discovered in the 20s, and the laboratories agree that how this thing was created is mystifying. U.S. restoration expert Dr. Frank Dorland said, if one flat out disregards any type of supernatural forces, then the Maya must have created the crystal skull by means of manual polishing. This is an unimaginable task, which would have taken centuries and quite obviously superseded any political and religious conditions. It's really hard for us to imagine how such an intended long-term goal could have been carried out from one generation to the next. 7 million working hours would presumably have been required to obtain the perfect final shape of the piece of crystal. That's equivalent to 800 years working day and night round the clock. If one stipulated 12 hours a day, it would take 1,600 years. So it's pretty obvious this thing wasn't created manually. They don't know. They admit they don't know. So Cannon thinks that it was an Atlantean mental power that they were able to build this, create this. She was told that most crystals in Belize and Arkansas, most crystals are in Belize and Arkansas. And she was also told that she only picked Arkansas to live. She thinks she picked it by random, but she's told she was put there for a reason, that she needed the presence of all the crystal that's in Arkansas to get the energy for her work. The BBC in 2013 made a thing called How the Earth Made Us about the crystal caves in Mexico. And there's also a 60 Minutes from Australia that talks about it too, so we should look those things up to see. So I'm going to end here. It's the end of the chapter. It's a good place to stop. So that's the end of video number 2. And your homework for this week is to go see if you can seek out that Crystal Cave in Mexico video. And that's a BBC 2013, How the Earth Made Us. And then also 60 Minutes Australia. So I'll try to find it. And if I find it, I'll put a link on my community channel. That's assuming that I figure out how to do that. So thank you very much for watching. And I hope you're enjoying this book. Some really interesting things here. And until later, Slongafoil, Slancha.